All right, guys, welcome to the Battle Warrior podcast. And as Eric would say, it is a rebrand from C's Get Degrees to the Battle Warrior podcast because I wanted a little bit more personal and I wanted to show everyone what it was like going through the ruts, the life, the gnarly shit. And to me, you know what? Chad means battle and warrior. So we made Battle Warrior. So it's got a little more pop to it than the C's Get Degrees.
Come on. I love it, dude. It's awesome, man. It's an honor to be back, man. I appreciate the invite.
And we're going to go a little different route because you had a phenomenal story the first go around. I don't want to steal any thunder on that one. We're not even going to add in. I mean, we can add in if you want to go on that one, but we ain't going to steal the thunder. And we have a little bit of time here. I know we're kind of restricted on time on both ends of it, but today we're talking about a few things, and one we were talking about before recording here, and we're going to bring that back up after, but let's first knock out your 100 shows for 2021.
Yeah, man. It's so the end of 2020, I set a goal to be a guest on 50 podcasts. I did 26 and I was like really mad. I was like, dude, 50 is not even that big of a deal. And so I came into 2021 going, all right, we're just going to 4X that. We're going to do 100 this year. And man, so that's what I've started, man. And so this is actually my 97th interview for 2021, man.
And you got up to, let me see what you got. 65 more days left.
Yeah. So I'm in the queue right now through the end of 2021 with 106. And I've got a couple more that are going to be scheduled for sure. And maybe even a bigger show that I'm working on that's going to be pretty rad if I lock it in. And then yeah, man, we'll attack it. And so far, I think 81 of those 97 interviews have been released this year.
That's insane. And like I said, this can be, I'm ahead on recordings, but just like me and you, man, when they're in the queue, you can override the queue and kind of modify it a little bit if you need to.
Sure.
Just in case for like book launches or product launches or whatever it is that you want to make sure it lines up with the queue. So
totally.
No, I think I'm on episode 68, 69, somewhere in there, 70, and I got another 10 in the queue. Obviously you noticed a little bit. A lot of people in the public noticed I moved. So I had about a month or two of quiet time.
Yeah.
And to be honest, guys, I purposely planned that just for the sake of getting all the ducks in the row and all that fun stuff here. And we're going to save the dirty part last because me and you can go into that. And it evolves today, guys. And we are recording on a major outage, but I'm not talking about that topic right now. What I'm talking about is we're going to freestyle this, but I was going to say the life of starting a podcast into all of a sudden the entrepreneurship world. So like as much as I don't want to say it, my life's starting to be very parallel than yours, just with like the apparel and all that stuff. So
yeah,
can you tell everyone kind of briefly when this gets going? So like your past episode 20s, 30s, and 40s of what I know we can't control what we expect.
Yeah.
What gets dropped on our lap.
Man, podcasting is such an interesting thing. I think if you either love it or you're kind of like half in it. And for me, when I decided to do it, I was half in it for a while. I would release maybe a show every other month or, a couple shows a month, maybe something like that. And then when I started to get really serious about it, like, man, this is really what I love to do. I'm fascinated with people's stories. You got to get consistent and you got to set that weekly release date and really stick to that. And so for the past almost 2 years, I've released the Erik Allen Show, which focuses on entrepreneurs, success-minded people, and world changers every Friday. And then Saturday is my top-rated MMA show, which is really talking with up-and-coming MMA fighters from around the world. I talk with early pro fighters, amateur fighters, and then some are bigger names like Ken Shamrock's been on there twice, Chris Lieben, things like that. And so I think, as you're going through that journey, there's like a stat that I read, like 90% of podcasters never make it to episode 100. And like maybe even a higher percentage of that don't even make it to episode 50, which is just really weird to me, And so, but I think if you get into podcasting, you love it and you're okay with the work it takes to get going, and it's going to suck at first. I look back at my shows, I'm like, oh gosh, man, I don't know if I'd ever release that. But I think if you can get through that and just know that you're going to kind of suck at first, the more that you do, the better you're going to get. Then you can get through that and you can go, the sky's the limit, when it comes to podcasting.
Yeah. And the suck part sometimes. And someone told me in a previous episode that I recorded with him, you love it, you fly into it, and all of a sudden you hit kind of that plateau.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden you're like, oh, I need to do this. And then it doesn't become fun for a little bit. And then now, like for me, it's getting just moving parts and all that stuff. Yeah, obviously we're going to have a little hiccups like we had today. That's just life. But
sure.
I love it.
Yep.
There's days like I could do this 24/7 if I really wanted to, and we could stay up till midnight if we really wanted to. Not today, but just in general, like when you love it, this isn't work. And to me, I'm more excited about once you start getting networked to the correct people, and everyone wants to help everybody. So it's not, there's no closed, family, closed, market, whatever it is. Once you're in that bubble, I don't want to say bubble, but like once you're in that community, it's just insane what gets drops on your lap.
Yes. Yep. 100%, man. I love the relationships that I've built, and I've been able to, get invited to some amazing business conferences from guests. And I've been able to connect with guests personally offline for, really cool stuff and just other projects and things like that. So you get to that point where you start getting recognized in the podcast community as a guy or a gal who's out there and you're serious and you're consistent, and people start to recognize that. Even if you're not seeing that, people are watching and people are listening to your show. And one thing that I would just throw out there is if you are starting a podcast, don't look at the numbers. I never paid attention to the numbers until I got close to my 10,000th download. And then after that, I was like, okay, cool. I hit that number, and then I'm just going to keep doing my thing, because I do podcasts because I love it. I don't do it for the numbers. I don't do it for the money. Though money's good, right? Like you can monetize your shows, but I don't do specifically podcasting for that thing.
Yeah, I was gonna say your monetization. Yeah, man, my tongue's sticking right now, but it's behind the scenes. We'll just say it that way. So
yeah,
you're pretty much gonna be, well, you are multiple outlets, and I'm not gonna get in depth here, but let's drop the dirty trick that occurred today in podcast or in the whole internet world. We'll say it that way.
Yeah.
So guys, we are recording October 4th. There's a big event that occurred last night, October 3rd. And me and you were discussing about this. And I'm like, you know what? We're part of the networks that we're part of. We're all kind of, freedom-based guys, Patriot guys. And I'm like, you know what? Let's bring it up. And yes, guys, Facebook and Instagram was down till 5:30 today, my time.
Yeah, I think so, man. It was down for a long time, like all stinking day for me, man, until just like right when you text, all of a sudden I got a direct message that showed that it came through like an hour before. And I was like, what the heck, man?
Well, and I'm scrambling going, oh crap, I got it. In when we're so used to the process of going through Instagram and Facebook, it's like, oh yeah, we have his email address. It just your chain of command kind of just drops a little bit differently. And I'm glad you text me on this, because there is no way we would align everything up if we were going through the original outlet. And do you even know what that is?
Dude, I have no idea, man. I haven't, it's funny. I had turned off the news probably 6 years ago. And so anytime something like this happens, I have no idea what's going on.
Yeah. And I'm not let's just say a whistleblower came out, and I'm going to keep the people quiet in my life that show me it. But
yeah, gotcha.
What it was there was a report that came out that opened up the financials of the overseas hidden accounts.
Okay.
Of all the major players.
Interesting.
And what was going on is this report came out late last night. So someone blocked Facebook today and Instagram to stop the news feed.
Right.
And that someone was the owner.
Of course.
So that's the reason why we had that's the under the table reason. I'm sure they're going to come out and say, hey, we had a technical difficulty. And
right.
Yeah, but that was the main reason.
Interesting. Was it, did it get released on like Project Veritas or something like that? Or where did it go?
I have no clue what it is behind the scenes, but all I know is I got the website, and I'm like, it's kind of scary, because I never noticed how much social media controlled at least our lives.
Sure.
And I'm gonna say our, like everyone's lives.
Yeah.
To where I'm like, and I was listening to Andy Frisella's today talking about this, but it's like, okay, I know how to hunt. I know how to this. Okay, if they shut this off, I know how to make a fire. It's I got raised up in the outdoors just like you. So like a lot of this stuff is, okay, let's not a doom and gloom, but it's like, okay, do I know these skills? Okay, yes, I do. All right, we're good. And just, it kind of just reminded me of, me and you are pretty similar with ages, but it's like growing up, it's like, okay, how did we do this back when we were, 5-10 years old?
Right. Yeah, totally. Yep.
So it's
wild.
Yeah, and it was kind of different. And you guys, we usually don't bring up politics or anything on this. This is just a normal, everyday podcast talking about business, entrepreneurship, faith walk, all that stuff. But I think we had to bring this one public, a reason why, because people need to know the truth.
Mm-hmm. Oh, I agree. Yeah, 100%, man. 100%. Like I said, I don't watch the news, but I do I'm very intrigued by, the whistleblowers and what Project Veritas does and stuff like that. I'm intrigued by, all those guys who come out and say all this stuff about other corporations and, all that stuff. I'm like, oh man, I could just that stuff can suck me in, I think.
It's the one thing I learned about this stuff long time ago was, and I'm not going to get in depth here, but a friend of a friend was tied into the Chicago biker gangs.
Okay.
And he said pretty much the easy distraction is you take care of everyone on the right while they do something on the left. And I'm not going to get too in depth here, but he goes, you take care of the boys take care of you, was the number one rule. And when you want to do something, you turn the public right, and then we take care of something on the left.
Interesting.
So it's I'm gonna keep hush hush on a lot of things that he said.
Yeah.
Just for his sake, because I don't want him ended up 6 feet under. But
right.
It's a whole different world that we learn. And like I said, guys, we ain't getting into politics or any of that too in depth. I wanted to bring this up as this and kind of tied into I know you've been a lot more conferences like this, and I'm getting into the game here on the newer side of it. You're starting to notice a lot of these entrepreneurs like us that are more, I'm an air quote, rebels.
Sure.
Are starting to direct more of that Patriot learning style.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree, man. Like I went to an awesome event earlier this year. I'd never actually been to a conference prior to, or a major conference like that. Way back in the day, I was part of Advocare, man. And so I went to a couple of Advocare big conferences down in Dallas, but I went to my first real business conference, I would say, this year. And it was really cool. 50 people down in California. And I think there was 49 millionaires there. I was the one, right? That was not, but I learned so much, man. And just being there, I thought the majority of people there might have fallen on the left-hand side. But I think once they started talking and they actually brought somebody in, like there's people who are running as a Republican down in California for this whole recall thing. And I was like, wow, that's interesting. But yeah, you are starting to see this. I think at least in my network of people, there's a lot of people that are that rebellious people that are trying to go for the freedom, right? And they, who cares about all this, but they just want the freedom, right? And so it's interesting to see that.
Yeah, and like I said, we're all kind of intertwined on the circles here. So like a lot of guys I know are tied in. There's pretty much a dozen guys that are leading this charge,
right?
Not more.
Yeah.
And it filters up to a few guys, and I'm gonna leave their names out of, but that's what's causing it, guys. And you're gonna see a lot more, at least on my end, a lot more freedom based, no F's given type attitude. I'm not trying to copy the guys. I'm just trying to tell everyone straight out that, hey, we're not all controlled up on top. And the way to innovate, the way to get out of the box, the way to kind of learn and be fresh is taking the handcuffs off yourself. So
yes. Yeah, absolutely.
But and guys, we're going to actually end this a little bit earlier. So just for the sake of time constraints, I know you said we have to do a hard stop pretty quick here. So tell everyone once again where we can find you.
ErikAllenMedia.com. It's ERIK, Allen, ALLEN media.com. And then I'm big on Instagram when it's running and the big boss man isn't shutting everything down. It's just Erik G. Allen. It's ERIKG. And then Allen, ALLEN. So I respond to every comment, every DM. Love connecting with new people, man. Love connecting with yourself. And I forget where you and I even connected from. It might have been through Instagram or Clubhouse, but man, it's been such an honor to join you on your show again. And And man, if people aren't listening to your show, they need to be, man, because you're a great host. You're very professional. Being on this podcast too, where I've seen a lot of levels of professionalism. This is definitely one of the most professional shows that I've been on, man. So I appreciate that.
Yeah, no problem, man. Thank you very much. And secondly, I got yelled at a few times from that to learn. So like we go and learn in stages with these things, and people are like, "Hey, man, come on." I'm like, "We're getting there."
Yeah.
But I appreciate everything, and we'll chat here when I'm done.
Awesome.